crisp December morning in Manhattan, the air electric with ambition, Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthCare, strode down the sidewalk. A titan of industry, a master of the universe. Then, bang! A single gunshot echoed through the canyons of Wall Street. Thompson, the man who treated healthcare like a commodity, was no more. The shooter? Luigi Mangione, 26 years old. Luigi Mangione became in an instant symbol of rage against the machine of capitalism, driven to a desperate act by a system that had failed him and countless others time and again. This wasn't just about one CEO, this was about a system. The system called capitalism, a system where profits trump people, where corporations write the rules, and where the American dream feels more like a cruel joke. Brian Thompson wasn't just a CEO, he was a man who had climbed the corporate ladder with ruthless efficiency, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered dreams in his wake. His rise to power was marked by a series of strategic moves that prioritized profit over people. And his tenure at UnitedHealthCare was no different. He was the embodiment of everything wrong with American capitalism. A system where the rich get richer and the poor are left to fend for themselves. Thompson's actions were a stark reminder of the growing inequality that plagues our society. His company, UnitedHealthCare, made billions while people struggled to afford insulin. The life-saving drug became a symbol of the broader healthcare crisis, where profits were placed above patient care. Families were forced to make impossible choices between their health and their financial stability. They denied coverage, delayed treatments, all in the name of the bottom line. Patients were left in limbo, their health deteriorating while the company's profits soared. The human cost of these decisions was immeasurable, yet it was all part of the business model. Capitalism is about business, not about healthcare for people. Capitalism is about greed of corporations, not about the health needs of people. Thompson was the face of that greed. He lived a life of luxury, far removed from the struggles of the average American. His wealth was built on the backs of those struggling with healthcare, a stark contrast to the lives of the people his company was supposed to serve. He was a symbol of a system where CEOs make 400 times more than their average employee. This staggering disparity highlighted the deep-rooted issues within corporate America, where the value of a worker's labor is grossly undervalued, where corporations spend millions lobbying to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. These funds could have been used to improve public health services, but instead they were funneled into the pockets of the already wealthy. The influence of money in politics further entrenched the power of the elite, making meaningful change for meaningful healthcare seem impossible. The American dream for affordable healthcare is increasingly out of reach for many under capitalism. Mangione's act, however misguided, shone a light on this ugly truth. It was a desperate cry for justice in a world that seemed to have forgotten the value of human life. His actions forced a conversation that many were too uncomfortable to have, bringing the issue of capitalist greed to the forefront. It forced us to confront the human cost of capitalist greed. The stories of families torn apart by medical debt were no longer just statistics. They were real, heartbreaking accounts of suffering and loss. These narratives highlighted the urgent need for reform, the desperation of families forced into medical debt. Parents were faced with the impossible task of choosing between paying for their child's medication or keeping a roof over their heads. The emotional and financial toll was devastating, leaving scars that would last a lifetime. Capitalism flourishes whilst the people perish. With the death of Brian Thompson, the anger at a system that seems rigged against the people became amplified. The voices of the people grew louder, demanding change and accountability. The collective frustration of a populace tired of being exploited was palpable, signaling a potential turning point in the fight against capitalist greed. The American healthcare system is a monstrosity. It is powered by capitalism. Its heart and soul is profit. A Frankenstein's monster of bureaucracy and profit-seeking. It's designed to extract every last penny from the sick and the suffering. Insurance companies deny claims, drug companies jack up prices, and ordinary people are left to navigate this labyrinthine nightmare. Mangione knew this system all too well. His own back injury, a cruel twist of fate, plunged him into the abyss of American healthcare. He may have faced denials, delays, and debt as well. He saw firsthand how the capitalist system that is supposedly meant to heal could break you instead. His story is not unique. It's the story of millions of Americans who are one medical emergency away from financial ruin. It's a system that prioritizes profits over patients. And it's a system ripe for disruption. Capitalism must be disrupted. We, the people, must end capitalism before capitalism ends us. Under capitalism, the people in power are more beholden to corporations than to their constituents. Mangione saw no other way. He felt powerless against a system designed to crush him and millions of others like him. It's what capitalism does. People have to be crushed in order for profit to grow. It's the capitalist way of life. His act, however extreme, was a desperate cry for help. A desperate attempt to expose the rot at the core of American society. Capitalism. It's easy to condemn his actions, but it's harder to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what happens when a society fails its people so completely? What happens when the pursuit of profit trumps all other values? This is the story of capitalism. This is the life of capitalism. Profit to capitalism is like oxygen for humans. Section 5. Echoes of dissent. From Occupy Wall Street to the Fight for 15, these movements were not just isolated incidents, but part of a larger tapestry of dissent. Each protest, each march was a thread in a broader narrative of resistance. The internet is filled with stories of corporate malfeasance. Every day, new headlines reveal the depths of greed and corruption fueling the fire of public outrage. From big pharma price gouging, where life-saving medications are priced out of reach for many, the sense of betrayal runs deep, leaving many to question the very foundations of the systems they once believed in. Mangione's act, however misguided, tapped into this well of discontent. It was a desperate cry for attention, a plea for recognition in a world of capitalism that seemed to have forgotten them. Section 6, the price of inequality. America, the land of opportunity. At least that's the myth we tell ourselves, but the reality is far different. The gap between the rich and the poor is wider than ever. Affordable healthcare in America is a pipe dream for the majority of the American people, and the American dream is increasingly out of reach for all but the privileged few. This level of inequality is not just morally wrong. It's economically and socially unsustainable. It breeds resentment, instability, and yes, even violence. It creates a society where people feel like they have nothing left to lose. Mangione's act was a symptom of this sickness. Healthcare is sick in capitalist USA. Mangione's actions was a stark reminder that we cannot continue down this path without consequences. Section 7. A broken social contract. America was founded on the idea of a social contract, a belief that we're all in this together, that we have a responsibility to look out for one another. But somewhere along the way, that contract was broken. Corporations, driven by insatiable greed, have chipped away at the foundations of our society. Where capitalism flourishes, humanity perishes. They've bought off our politicians, rigged the system in their favor, and left the rest of us to fend for ourselves. Mangione's act was a rejection of this broken contract, a desperate attempt to reclaim the promise of a just and equitable society. It was a stark reminder that we need to rewrite the rules of the game. The script of capitalism is written by the rich for the rich. Section 8. Seeds of change. Mangione's act was a tragedy, a senseless loss of life. But it also planted a seed of hope. It sparked a conversation that we can no longer avoid, a conversation about the kind of society we want to live in. In the wake of the shooting, voices erupted across the country. People from all walks of life took to social media, demanding an end to corporate greed and a more just economic system, away from capitalism. Politicians, long beholden to corporate interests, were forced to take notice. For the first time in a long time, there was a sense of possibility in the air, a sense that real change might actually be possible. Section 9. Reclaiming May Day. In America, May Day has been largely forgotten. The streets that once echoed with the chants of workers now lie silent. The vibrant posters that once called for justice have faded into obscurity. No longer. Let's reclaim May Day. Let's celebrate May Day as End Capitalism Day in America and in all parts of the world. Let's make it a day of action. A day where we come together to voice our demands and show our strength. May Day is a day when we call for the end of capitalism, a day to demand an end to corporate greed, to challenge the systems that prioritize profit over people. It is a day to stand up against the injustices that plague our workplaces and our communities, a day to fight for economic justice. The tragic killing of Brian Thompson has exposed a system in dire need of change. It is a call to action, a plea for us to continue the fight for a fair and just society. May Day is a reminder that we must never stop fighting for justice, for equality, for peace and happiness on Earth. May Day must be End Capitalism Day. It's only when we end capitalism will we end the many tragedies plaguing humankind, like paying rocketing prices for healthcare, which should in the first place be a human right. This the 1st of May, let's celebrate workers' rights. Let's also call for the end of capitalism.